Hey, g'day guys. I'm back. We're going to look over Josh's car again. There's been a bit happening. He's going back to the beginning. Bit of an overview. Car wasn't running right. 1UZ VVti. No drive-by-wire throttle. We've swapped the bits and pieces around. We've diagnosed a crook fuel pump. That's been replaced. And then Josh is moving on and actually been setting up a little bit himself. So I've got two different maps. One he sent me about a week ago, and then one he just sent me today. So what I've done is I've got the maps. Here's one, and then over here is the other map. This is the other map. Josh Edit Auto. It says at the very top of the screen here what it is. Take 3, Josh Edit. And then I've got the logs for each of them. There's a log for one, and I've got the log for the other, so I can tell what he's been doing. And it's looking really good. It's driving better. So what I'm going to do is just do a really quick look over it. Josh is going to send me some more logs tomorrow, but we're going to make a couple of little adjustments tonight, just really quickly, and just do a bit of comparison, just a bit of an update to check that Josh is on the right track. I have sent a message to Josh today, or just a few minutes ago when I was looking over them, and I asked about the exhaust manifolds that he's running. And this whole process is a development process. Normally, of course, you'd put it on a dyno and you'd sit on it, you'd run through, spend the day on it. And that's the ideal way to do it. But then even after the dyno, with a lot of vehicles, I continue to develop the tunes and adjust and improve. I'm quite finicky on this sort of stuff. And when I go to race day with the jet boats, this is what I'm doing. I'm setting it up. I'm keeping that engine going, making the most out of that engine, checking everything's going right. So with the logs, we've got the most recent log. We'll grab, this is the most recent log. So the very first thing to do is, I've got general engine health. What we have in here, I've got water temp, and I've got an air temp, and I've got a battery voltage. If I had oil pressure, I'd like to see some oil pressure. If it's boosted, I like to have some boost pressure, just in case there's no big boost spikes or anything like that. Alternators in the boats, they blow to pieces all the time. In the water, mounted down low, solid mounted, they rattle to pieces. So that's why I've learnt to look at that and hopefully catch them before they fail. So here's a startup, and you can see there's a drop in voltage. I'll just expand that out. But it's only dropping down to like 11 volts. Oh, sorry, wrong side. There we go. What do we got there? Oh, 10.77. So that's just fine. As long as it doesn't go into 10, I'm pretty happy. There's this little interesting, I've done it again, a little blip here where it's sitting, 13.43, and it's got this little blip to 13. So I don't know if something's been turned on in the car, whether a fan's flicked on or something's happened at that point. Not really a concern. And often this alternator line, it can end up being like looking really quite jagged because we get it so close. See, like this water temp, for example. But the hot points are 85, and if I go over here, that's 77. There's only 8 degrees of difference in there. And often with the alternator, we're ending up where it's 0.2 of a volt difference, but the line looks jagged because we've got it so refined. But I'm really happy with that. Air temp, 72 degrees right there. That is hot. Hot. And so this process isn't just about developing the tune, but it's also about developing the car and improving the car as well. So you find out stuff like this. We actually we're running a HQ race car, and the owner of that one got out on the weekend, or last week. He went for a rip around the track, and because we've got good software and good logging, he found that he's got an oil surge problem. The car's always had that oil surge problem, but now the cars are sick and fast around the track, and he knows that there's an issue with oil pressure. So that's why looking at that stuff, and I think oil pressure is really important to look at. Okay, so what have I got here? I don't even remember what I had. That's not really what I'm going to go to my lambda and some targets, lambdas. I'm sure I've got that one. And there's some corrections right here, and you can see it does go to minus 11 there, but it's still not bad, you know. This isn't bad at all, minus 12, but a lot of the time when it's being driven, it's pretty steady. I'm in the right one. So that's actually looking really good. He's come up really nicely. We also got down here, we've got some speed starting to happen. Just going to drag it in. So we've lost something there. What's happened? And how fast were you going? We've actually put him some speed, and that's some pretty high stuff. But you can see right in here, our lambda's dropped out. Right, we're going to go over here. So one thing I can do with this is I can actually do a comparison. So this is the Josh edit. If I go compare, and I grab that one, this is the ignition timing. So we've got timing for the first one and the second map. So the new map as such is the yellow. We pop over here, and we can see there's red stuff in the knock control. So we need to look at some timing. Closed loop lambda. There's a fuel setting that's changed. Oh, yep. So that's the closed loop lambda. And Josh has turned that over to auto mode. That might be a problem there. Okay. Is that where he turned it over? There's no switching the car off. We're just gonna hold there. I'm just gonna do a little bit of a check and come up with a bit of an answer here of why I've got closed loop correction just suddenly stopped. It didn't actually take me long. Look at this. I put closed loop status in here. So let's have a look and see if we can put in, we'll push OK. We'll go to the logging screen. We'll flick along, and we're going to do a new page, and we'll do lambda status. Okay. We go again, new view. No. No, I think we're probably just a values list. And is it in here? Status. Map lockout. Look at that. Okay. So we've got a map lockout happening. Just see if I can get that in a better form, shall we? We'll have a bit of a play around here. Add group, add parameter. Is there something else that we may be able to use? Suppose if we chuck in the closed loop field correction and push OK. We go right here, increase fuel, so I can actually go along I can actually study what he has done, what has happened. I want to see what that says. I think it says connection lockout. But as you see, something's happened. Here we go. Map lockout. Back to there. Okay, it's right in here. I've got to push the ROM. It's right in here. We got lambda. And it's on auto mode. Decrease fuel. Lockout TPS delta. Acceleration active. Map delta. Activation timeout. And then we've got a lockout, a map lockout. So right there, something changed. And we've lost lambda. So it's probably good that I'm going over this because Matt will, oh, wrong person. Josh will watch this and he'll go, something happened there, and he needs to research it and check it. Or he may know that something went wrong. But look at that. Map lockout right there. And whether he was tuning on his knee, so I think he was tuning on his knee on his own, that something could have changed. So let's just have a look here in these settings. $60. That's okay. I already think the problem is right here. Map lockout greater than 0 kPa. So I'm going to put that back into 104 because I want it to be working over the whole range. So we're going to do that. The rest looks pretty good, and I think probably just bump the button. Okay, we'll go back to that map compare, and here you can see 104 and 0. So I think that's going to be our big issue. So that's, and then if we look down, here's the fuel table. Look at the differences in this fuel table. You can see that it's pulling fuel out. So the top numbers again are where we started, and the bottom numbers are where we're going to. You can see here 83 to 79, so 4 difference. There's a big difference here. And I want to look over that just to check it's not doing anything really weird. It was very rich before, so a lot of fuels come out. The numbers we had before were very, very high, I should say. And they were a lot higher than I expected. Part of that was to do with the fuel pump. We had to put extra fuel in or richen it up because fuel pump wasn't flowing like it should, and we were losing pressure. The numbers now look a lot more normal, and a lot more of what I'd expect. I'm going to pop over to the actual tune just on its own, and we'll bring up the map. There we like that. We're just going to push this little button here, and there's the fuel map, and you can see it actually looks, there's some form to it. Possibly a little bit of an issue just up in this area here. See where it jumps right up there like that? Let's have a look at that in the other view. We go along here, and look at this. Here's that bit that's off the side. And this is really interesting, actually. You can see these numbers are very big right through here. If we actually look at the logs, this log is no good to me, but I'll look at this log, where we've got some big fuel trims. They're actually at no throttle, and I can't really see that one, can we? So we can just change that. That color there, that color crappy. This fluoro green. Okay, so 88. So when we look at this map here, this fuel map, as we go along, we got these high numbers here. And I'm just going to find some logging here. We've got some big trims, like here. And I betcha 0 TPS, minus 90 kPa. So it's in lots of vacuum. And if we had a TPS, it's closed, or if we look at the TPS, it's either closed or it's closing. And we're getting these at some points we're getting some interesting fuel trims on a decel, and I've seen it a few times. There's a good example right there. TPS is closed. It's dragging some vacuum, and it's got lots of fuel trims. And when we look at that map, what revs were we doing? Well, did you check the revs? Wasn't that one? this one, checking the revs. Well, that one's coming right down 1100. But I've did some before where it was, and of course it doesn't show up while I'm trying to find it. It was like 2000 RPM, closed throttle, and it was dragging out a heap of fueling. And that will be because of these numbers up here. They're very, very high. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted tonight. Let's go. So if I pop it on that one, see right there? See, look at those ones. They're a little bit hard to see. So let's adjust those. And let's put them like 10 under what the others are. So when it drags lots of vacuum, there's some fuel going in. So this is, you've got your decel zones. Technically the injectors should be off, but as your revs drop, you do find that often it's still with quite a lot of vacuum. And then in here, look at this, 75. So we could find in these zones here that it could still be a bit rich. I think that one could probably come down, and I think if I look around, these are going to end up coming down a bit. We'll see how that map looks now. That's a bit better, so we've got rid of that big high bit there. We've got some interesting stuff happening over here. Now this is a zone that helps with your starting a little bit as well. And the timing in this area, you don't normally drive in that bit. It's really, really hard to get that set up on the dyno nicely. So looking at the table, there it is there, just in that corner. I'm not too concerned about that at this stage. We've done that little bit at the top, and the rest of the numbers are graduating really nicely and are a lot lower than they were. So that's looking really good. Josh, you've done a great job. That's looking fantastic. But the thing I want to actually address, and if we look in the compare, we've got some highlighted areas down in the knock zones. Oh, we've got some statistics. I wonder what in the statistics. Well, you've got a few more RPM. And you'll notice here in the map, 103 kPa. Injectors duty cycle, 78%. We're looking good there. Looking good. So overall, we're looking real good. Back we go. Now let's look at these knocks. Now you can see we've got some knocks happening because we've actually set up knock control. We've pulled some fuel out. We've got a bit of knock happening from sort of here through to there. It's not really ideal. So we need to probably address that. I've probably got the knock sensors a bit sensitive, and that's because I'm not there and I'm not listening to it. I really would like to be listening, have some knock ears on it. because you kind of calibrate the computer to what you're hearing. Because I can't tell what mechanical noise this engine's getting. So I've got to go a little bit on what Josh is saying. He's telling me, he says it's going real well. But it's going real well, and it's pulled that 5 degrees of timing out. So we're going to look over here. We're going to go in here. I'm going to go through, and I'm actually going to get rid of these boost zones, because it's just, I find it a little confusing when I'm looking at them all. So I'm going to get rid of the boost zones, and I'm going to look at it, just changing it a little bit first. So if you just wait there, I'll do my changing of boost zones, which I'll do the one for start with, axis setup, and I'm basically getting rid of these ones. I use the delete button, and I want to confirm I've got 7,500 RPM, 7,000. So I'm going to chuck in, and I want to go right off the top. There was something else I wanted to check. Actually, okay, yes. So that's going to make this much easier for me to look at. I'm going to make it so it clears these knocks on startup, so it doesn't save them. And I'm going to desensitize that table a little bit. But just something else. Now, I was talking earlier about our air temps. Let me just see if I can find them now. General engine health. 72. Now, did I put an air temp on one of these overlay? I think I put an air temp in. I did not. It stood on this one. I had it on knock. Don't mind me. Did I put an air temp on? Or timing? Here, look at this. So we've got some knock happening here, and it's our air temp is up. Look at that. So that's at 72, and there's some knock events right there. This is fairly normal. That's about what I want to see. Okay. But we've got these couple of knock events that happen. So that one's at 72. Here's an increase in air temp. There's a 51 over 41. So when we have increased air temps, we also have the increased probability of knock events. This one, the temp is down. There's a little climb in temp. But we definitely get some pretty vigorous knock events there. What have we got here? 3.5, 3 to 4. So that's all fairly normal. But these higher RPM knock events, I've got some element of concern. Lexus engines are hardy as all hell. They're really strong. But we still want to minimize those sort of events. This has got quite a lot of timing, and I suspect it's got crappy exhaust manifolds. So the scavenging at high RPM isn't as clean and as nice as it should be. Hence, at those higher RPMs, we're getting some knock events. So I'm going to clear some tables, and then we're going to come back and we're going to put in some air temps, or air temp correction tables. Okay, I've done all my knock tables. Let's look at this tune, and we're going to go to ignition corrections, which I've already got up here. There's an ECT trim, engine coolant temp, and there's an IAT, which is off. Let's turn that on, and we'll have a look at the table. And there is a default table that comes up, and you can see at 40 degrees, pulls a degree out, 52, 63, 75 degrees. At 70 degrees, it pulls out 5 degrees of timing. Degrees of temperature and degrees of timing. And then from there on, it pulls out 7 degrees. That's a default map that's in there. That's probably not a bad setup, actually. Just to pull that little bit of timing out. You can also sometimes add a bit of timing when it's colder to get a bit more power on those cool nights. Excuse me. But let's start there. It's a good place to start. And let's address our timing issues. Knock setup. Looks good. Clear trim tables, power on. Okay, so when you turn the key on, it's going to clear all those tables. Now I wonder if we've got, whether it's transient on an uphill gain. Okay, so I'm just looking at this. And you can see it's already on the TPS. So it's only risen a little bit on the acceleration. It's once he gets up, and you can see he's wide open throttle. And there, look at that. There's that intake temps come up again. And they're starting to drop back down, but you get a lot of knock events when that's up there. But it's, what revs? 6.1, which is when an engine's making a lot of noise anyway. So we'll go to the timing map, and we'll have a bit of a look here. .22s, 34s. Let's have a... So we've got quite a lot more timing in this map, up in the higher revs, 4 or 5 degrees. So what I think we're best to do here is to drop back to the more conservative timing map. I don't think we've got a compare function of maps at this point. So they're pretty similar at the top end. Okay. Overall, I was wanting to pull 4 or 5 degrees of timing out, because that's what the knock sensors are doing. And basically this one, 4.5 is 24. It's going to be 2 degrees at least. 4.5, 22. So there's 2 degrees just by going back to this map. So that, for me, is going to be a really easy change. We've got a dual map in here. So I'm virtual auxiliary 2. So I just go to virtual auxiliary 2. Auxiliary outputs right here. virtual auxiliary 2, and I'm turning it off. And that drops us to a more conservative timing map. I'm also going to go to the overall trim. The overall knock targets. And I've only gone up to 500 at the top end. And look, only to 7,000. So I'm actually going to put one more in the top there. Hopefully there's enough room. And I actually think it's going to be able to handle just a little bit more knock. These are very conservative figures. So I'm just going to go to another one of my maps and grab another knock setup. Just wait there. I'll just go find one that's going to suit me. Righto. So I was looking for one I'd used before. I wasn't happy. Couldn't find one that I liked. So I've just desensitized it a little bit. Basically, if we look at the here, anytime above 6,000 RPM, we can go along the bottom. Here's a 6,000, here's a 6,000, here's a 6,000. Look, knock, knock, knock. So any point above 6 is where the worst stuff happens. This is at 100% throttle. Somewhere in the middle, he light it off. I bet you if I stretch it, it drops right off in the middle there. So we got temp here, 6,500, 100% throttle. He drops off, but it takes a moment to settle. It's reduced. The worst of it is there. 100% throttle. 5.4, 5.8, 64% throttle. 5.7. So maybe about 5.5 at reasonable amounts of throttle. So if we go into here, we're going back to that timing map. We've already pulled a couple of degrees out. Now we're on. Now I do want to confirm, Josh, that it is switching to the other timing map, because we should be on table 1 now. Just going to double check what's going on. So we've got dual ignition, virtual auxiliary 2, and virtual auxiliary 2 is off. So please confirm that it's going to the number 1 timing map. This one. So above 5.5, we've already pulled a couple of degrees of timing out. And it's not unusual for these not to run a heap of timing. I've seen this. 20, 22 is quite normal for a standard type engine. I'm just going to pull a couple more degrees out just to be on the safe side there. We'll monitor that. Okay, that should help with that. I don't want to do any more on that side at the moment. I'm overall, mate, the mixtures are looking good. We'll have a bit more of a look at those fuel trims. Apart from that one stopping, right there. But even with that not working, the mixtures, look at this. Lambda to lambda target. So the lambda target is in behind. Look how close these lines are. Bit of a blip there. There's a decel here. Is it? Decel. Decel. And we've addressed those. But look at that. So even without closed loop, which turned off well before there, it is still looking fantastic. I'm just blown away. You've done an awesome job, Josh. That's looking really good. Let's just address that little bit of timing. Can we just check the speed? Because it does say here you're doing 129 kilometers per hour. And over here, 186 kilometers per hour. That's fairly impressive. But again, the logs, what we're looking there, you're on the right track. You're pretty much exceeded all of my expectations of where we were going to get this to. So I am super, super happy. I'd really love to see some knock ears on this engine to monitor that over 5.5, 6 grand. I don't think it's knocking. I think it's probably other mechanical noise, though it could be related to just crappy exhaust manifolds. But overall, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing a log tomorrow. It's looking great. Really, really well done.